Amandla Mayubuye uMzantsi Afrika wethu emaseleni mawubuye Mawubuye uMzantsi Afrika wethu emaseleni mawubuye UDM Deputy President Yathula ke ngoku UDM Deputy President Mr. Ngabayomzi Kwankwa, Honorable Member of Parliament, Provincial UDM leadership, our host province, the chairperson of the UDM in the province, Tatum Khokelwa, UDM leaders of the OR Tambo region, Councillor Lukolo Namente, tipete la chepepa. Deputy Executive Mayor of the Nelson Mandela, no pete ngoku kuba ke usachacha umuntu ebengaphambili pha. Speedy recovery kuwe mayor. UDM councillors zonke, members and supporters of the UDM, ladies and gentlemen, Tatusitole osphethelele nkqubo. Those here present and those watching at home, welcome to the United Democratic Movement ceremonial launch of our election campaign and our manifesto for 2021 municipal elections. Even though we are thankful for the rain, to those who are present, thank you for braving the weather to be here. The Independent Electoral Commission's timetable dislodged most political parties, but here we are, launching our manifesto under these difficult circumstances. A thank you goes out to all the people that contributed to the success of today's event. There are too many to mention by name, but you did a massive job under very difficult circumstances. Thank you for your hard work. I quickly want to mention that there are some discrepancies with the UDM candidates list and names that appear in wrong slots on some of the IEC's published lists. The EFF Secretary General, Utadu Dlamini, confirmed the same to me last night, as well as President of the ATM this morning. I have heard that the AIC and PAC have also concurred. The UDM has already submitted our complaint of these lists with the IEC, and we qualify them as technical glitches on their part. Okokwangoku asikafuna ukulwa kakhulu. Neka sisithi esizifakile nazi proof ubani lo use ubani kula ward. Ubani osuse ubani pha. Insofar as the plea from our ward candidates to be assisted with posters, we have some good news. The UDM will be footing the bill for those posters. You are requested to WhatsApp your high-resolution head and shoulder photographs to our National Treasurer, Mrs. Thandi Nontenja, via your local regional leadership. Ngiqalise kwanamhlanje ukuphuma kwenu xesha sinalo. Make sijonge ke ngoku iUDM le uba isukaphi. Yenzeni? Bakhona oswana sibomvana abadla ngobuzi ba. Nenze ntoni nele UDM? Eniboma iobituary yabo yethu yayibhalwe kwango-1999. Ngokokwabo befana basekho emhlabeni. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saying happy birthday UDM as we recently celebrated our 24th birthday on the 27th of September. Yet another achievement is that this will be the 5th municipal elections in which the UDM will participate since our inception in 1997. The UDM and its leaders have always operated from a non-partisan position with a view to achieve social cohesion and transforming South Africa into a winning nation. The UDM was instrumental in agitating for the abolishing of immoral floor-crossing legislation, which is no longer on our statute books. It was a founder member of the Tutuka, rather, I was a founder member of the Tutuka project in collaboration with the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants and others. This project developed study guides in English, maths, and accounting, and produced more black chartered accountants as we speak today. When the Mandela family requested my assistance in the preparation for Mandela's final farewell, I accepted without hesitation. During the conference of the parties, that is COP17, we assisted the planting of 35,000 indigenous trees in the Zulu kingdom whilst under the reign of His Majesty, the late King Goodwill Zwelithini, as part of the fight against climate change. When our soldiers threatened to rebel due to bad service conditions in the South African National Defence Force, we stepped up to the plate when former President Jacob Zuma and then Defence Minister Lindwezi Sulu asked for assistance and successfully quelled the threatening uprising. I served on the National Defence Force Service Commission when mandated to do so by the Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans. When COVID-19 last year, coming closer to you, hit our shores, I raised around 750,000 rands in donation to purchase PPE and for around 32 health centers and hospitals in the Eastern Cape. We recently joined forces with the South African Federation of Trade Unions, that is served to lead as Zwelinzima Vavi, to negotiate with fruitful results in the dispute between Cape Town taxi associations. During the KwaZulu-Natal mayhem, I assisted a group of businesswomen to fundraise for food parcels for adversely affected families in KwaNongoma, with the delivery made to His Excellency Mrs. Zulu, rather His Majesty Mrs. Zulu Waka Zwelithini. The UDM Deputy President, Ngabayomzi Kwankwa, Kwankwa's African Parliamentarians Association for Human Rights, have been doing sterling work in Africa. He was recently appointed as the Africa representative to the steering committee of the International Panel of Parliamentarians for Freedom of Religion and of Belief. Since 1999, the UDM advocated for the changing of the rules of the party political funding. The ANC and democratic movement dug in their heels and refused to budge for many years, many years. We are now vindicated as parties are forced to declare their donations. We now also know why they were so reluctant to share that information, and one wonders what that picture would have shown over the years. Ndithi ngo-1999 sathi makwenze umthetho othi iparty zideclaration imali ziyithathaphi, ingabi kanti sifandwa ngumuntu oyi-one one-agenda yakhe okanye i-country ethile. Kodwa ke ngoku elo dabi lideske laphumelela. Ngoku ni-aware uba u-ANC yena ube-survivor ngemali ze-state through Bosasa, ntontoni, zonke ezo zinto ezo. I-DA yona incedwa ngongxowankulu abamhlophe. Oyibonayo nje uba kupromothwa i-class ethile apha ne-race qha. So proud ukuthi sigqibe 24 years singazange sibe sijikeleza siboqoza iminqwazi kwezi departments sisibe imali. Kanti iziqhwabele mani sebenzile. Ayetheme yami yaphela. Ukwangwa kaloku sendiqhelela utshawe uye andinike i-3 minutes by parliament. When the president asked me to serve on the Presidential Climate Change Coordinating Commission, which advises on South Africa's climate change response, I said yes. The UDM's exposure of alleged corruption in the Public Investment Corporation, the DBSA, the Department of Education, the Ministry of Defense is well documented. Students may find the correspondence regarding our unceasing constituency work when we advocate for communities and individuals on the UDM's website, which is www.udm.org.za. Let me now come closer to local government. Elections, these local government elections are already demonstrating voters' appetite for issue-driven manifestos. This trend will continue in the 2024 general elections. South Africans are no longer interested in catchy slogans and hollow promises. You know what the problems are, and you want solutions. A case in point is the commissions made at the Zondo, is the confessions made at the Zondo Commission. As we heard, for many years, massive amounts of money were siphoned from the government and state-owned enterprises into the ruling elite's pockets and Tulutuli House. We even heard how Bosasa cash paid for events and rallies such as Seyinqoba, national conferences, as well as use of their head offices by ANC for elections. These millions and billions of rands, Mamelega, should have created jobs, maintained infrastructure, and kept SOEs functioning properly. Yet it all went to shambles, while some people and their party were gorging at the trough. Now voters want to know how and when the stolen money will be returned and when the corrupt will be brought to justice. The UDM is of the view that as soon as possible after these municipal elections, like-minded South Africans of all persuasions should converge under one roof to discuss the country's future, waiting for the ruling party, which thoroughly ruined this country, to have its much vaunted self-correcting nature to kick in and fix this country is an exercise in futility. At such a gathering, a quick and simple blueprint should be crafted that will address the burning issues that are affecting South Africa's economic performance and image. It is our local government system that we must now look at it thoroughly. Ladies and gentlemen, the previous South African local government system saw councillors essentially work for free. It was therefore an improvement when in the new South Africa we ushered in a system that compensated those leaders in government who worked closest to our people. Yet 27 years later, we should be honest with ourselves and admit that our local government system is not working in all respects. The UDM is of the view that the entire local government system must be reviewed, in main because it fosters entrepreneur and abuse of the Municipal Financial Management Act. Year upon year, municipalities receive qualified audits from the Auditor General as fruitless and wasteful expenditure keep growing. UDM municipalities will tighten the screws when financial management is concerned, where financial management is concerned, in cooperation with the provincial and national governments. Where we govern, the UDM will simply implement the Auditor General's instructions and recommendations of the last financial year's audit report. We will also work closely with law enforcement to implement the Auditor General's findings where prosecution is necessary. Now let us look at the budgeting system of this country. We must also review the budgeting system, as the 3-year allocation cycle does not work. Districts blow their budgets within the first year, mainly due to corruption and poor planning. Projects, particularly those in roads and water, come to a grinding halt in the second year as funds dry up. Projects remain unfinished until someone wakes up 5 years later. This is exactly what happened with the 2019 OR Tambo Water and up to Coffee Bay dry until today. Masibulele members ze-UDM ocebo councillor abaseva kwi-OR Tambo because bathe bawufika bathi sifuna uqonda ba iphi imali ebibekelwe ufakala lamanzi yakwezilalo libode Mthatha kuyomango Coffee Bay bonwa inhloko kanti bayityile. Yiyo lento i-OR Tambo igqibele seyinomeya ababini, no speaker ababini, besuka from the ruling party, i-ANC. Ngoku enye icala licela i-UDM malincedise ekhansileni, zathi members ze-UDM, no asingeni, asinithembanga nonke, ngathi nitye nonke nixhaphile. To members of the OR Tambo District Municipality, in yet another compromising story, this council had the dubious honor of simultaneously having 2 speakers and 2 mayors as the ruling parties infighting interfered in their work. I am proud to say that the UDM councillors did not side with either faction, which brings me to my next point. UDM municipalities and councillors will not fall into the trap of politicizing service delivery and the integrated development planning program. We will work together with all communities, irrespective of political affiliation, be accountable and will give feedback as Ngoli up. Further, to our goal of putting people first, the UDM will strive to work with other political parties that might govern at provincial and national levels to depoliticize and achieve service delivery. Furthermore, the UDM municipalities councillors will keep their noses clean, and they will stick to their role of oversight. Let's look now at local economies and job creation. UDM has long argued that rural revitalization and stimulating smaller local economies are key elements of addressing some of the weaknesses in our economy. Creating jobs closer to where our people live will curb the massive influx to the cities where job hopefuls come to have their dreams dashed. We believe, for instance, that the closure of the so-called border industries, which created jobs close to the former homelands, was a case of throwing the baby away with the bathwater. UDM municipalities will therefore advocate for tax incentives to be reinstated, for factories to be reopened closer to where rural communities live. The UDM municipalities will also conduct audits of current industrial areas and infrastructure within the borders of the municipalities where we govern. Such audits will show where the potential for development and investment needs are. UDM's is furthermore all about transparency and consultation. We will enter into discussions with communities, interested groups, business organizations, and business owners. This will in part act as an indicator for the direction in which industrial and commercial development should take place. Regarding the employees of the expanded public works program, UDM will employ those who qualify without considering political affiliation. We will pay them a decent living wage because we know they have responsibilities like everyone else. The UDM will ensure that ward councillors play only an oversight role and do not manipulate this process. The UDM's passionate and about establishing job-creating programs that will deal with environmental issues such as soil erosion, eradicating invading invader plants, fencing of grazing, and arable land, and distilling river bends and dams to hold water, more water for the dry season. Le ndizayithetha i-close kakhulu kubantu abahlala ezilalini. Sinemilambo apha ehambisa amanzi. Le nto siyibonayo ngoku, le nto kuthiwa i-climate change ikhona. Le milambo buyayiqaphela ngoku oMbhashe noNtontoni. Uvela isanti ngoku amanzi akasakwazi uhamba. So kwabatata aba between 35 years uyoma ko 55, kulapho bebefama ke ngoku banikwe umsebenzi, baqeshwe ukuthi make sure basibuyisela isimo sale milambo namadami kwinto esasiyo. Lack of maintenance yiyo libangela uba amanzi ngoku ashote kwendawo ezininzi. eGcuwa for instance niphelelwe ngamanzi because eButterworth idami elazange lombiwe kwakhona. So we have to think ahead. Le milambo igcwele isanti ngoku yayikade ibaleka amanzi, so kufuneke ngoku kwakhiwe i-reinforcement kwaba mama nabatshakazana bangenamisebenzi. Phaya ngaphambili ngondandisaphethe ndizibeke ngenkani ke phofu ngoko. Sasiye sithi niyabona le lali ine-soil erosion, khukhuliseko mhlaba. So nina sicela nityale ingca, nifake amatye. Yayijob leyo. Yayikho le nto yenu yalo cambalala wenu lo ninikwa o-300. Enye into kwi-climate change, yazini le nto uba njengoba nidla ngobona kukhona isnow kumazwe ngasentla, siyayibona loo nto ngoku isnow siyangena apha eMzantsi Afrika. Ithetha ukuthi ke ngoku we should be thinking ukuthi masakheni le nto ndingathi zi-community foresting, zizawuphinde kutyale kwa abatata umsebenzi. Community foresting izawuninceda xa kubandayo because i-electricity ayizuye iwomisha indlu yakho. So vulana amehlo, hambe benivota nivotela nje abaviva ningabaziyo. Masingene ke ngoku kwi-issue of revenue generation. The phenomenon of illegal occupation of buildings owned by local government must stop. This is a symptom of municipalities that do not care, have lax administration, and have no inspection and law enforcement capacity. UDM municipalities will conduct physical inspections, audits, and inventories of movable and immovable property to have a clear picture of the state of the municipality properties, their state and their values. In instances where businesses are illegal run from such premises, the UDM will address the matter in accordance with the relevant legislation. We will also liaise with the South African Receiver of Revenue, or rather South African Revenue Services, to ensure that those businesses are up to date with their taxes. There are far too many examples of people living in industrial zones and industries and businesses operating from housing zones. Xa ungena apha eMthatha, you see, Katie Matanzima, singambiza ngaba simbize ngamagama. But ndiyaqinisekisa uba ngoku benokathi mepha ngase-Standard Bank, ito yengalapha izothi uvelaphi. ubukaduphi sihlele bugxwayibeni apha inkukume zange sibone ukungcolo kunje. Now i-councillors zekamasipala we-UDM nobuphi masi-avoideni into babantu bafake i-warehouses kwi-main street. Yile nto ibangela kubekho i-congestion kutshayisana iimoto. Farmers zibe nendawo yawo, zibe nezone yayo uba ngabe ufuna uyothenga izitena zesament, amaplanga, yonke loo nto leyo. Le uvele kumeze yonke ezikuthulu ezidolophu ezincinci kumiwe kuthiwa kwenzani, hayi kuvale laa truck ibisuka ngapha eDurban izise amaplanga kasibanibani, ababhatali nerhafu nabasibanibani. Sizawuya kanjani emanzini, water access? What councillors who are closest to the people bear the brunt of complaints as water is cut off without notice, no explanation, and no indication of when it will be turned on? Worse still is that people in many places are without water for days, sometimes weeks, and they buy bottled drinking water to cook, bath, and do their washing. Councillors at district level, where this competence resides, coast along as if nothing is wrong, whilst the people are deprived of their constitutional right. The UDM municipalities and councillors will advocate for water to be made a competence at local municipality level, or that service level agreements are signed with district municipalities. Either model will enable local communities or local municipalities to take responsibility for water supply and benefit from the internal or earning potential. Apa siyarod. O councillor abaseva kumasipala i-ward councillor azina access pa ku-OR town okanye kwi-district municipality. Le mali le-revenue bayi-generator for i-district municipality ayaziwa uba yenzani. Now sithi ke ngoku la manzi ayithathwe komasipala makaphinde iyophathwa ngomasipala, because bazawukwazi ke ngoku bazawukwazi ukulungisa idolophi zabo, because ezitawuni zadeprive i-revenue. Kanti onkabi benzeka into yoba le mali bamane beyithatha pha ngezi quick tenders, channel to go to house amasela. Masluke makesijonge umbane, electricity. Small municipalities do not have licenses to generate power, and they depend on the ESCOM monopoly for their electricity. They then miss out on revenue opportunities, and communities suffer because they must wait for ESCOM to wake up and smell the roses. UDM municipalities will therefore approach the Department of Energy and ESCOM to provide small local municipalities with the necessary licensing to allow for local energy sourcing and generation to fast-track electricity provision, housing and land tenure. UDM municipalities will initiate housing projects with the national and provincial governments by identifying land for housing development. Funeka nibe clear ngale nto, ningatshiselwa imizini yenu ningoceba. Irresponsibility yokwakha izindlu ibudget apha ikhoyo iku-national no local no provincial. nina irresponsibility yenu boceba ningahambe nixoka apha nithi hayi buvotela i-UDM yawutyibilika ebhotolweni yomange sonka cacisela abantu kwangoku uba ndim umuntu ozawuthi make sure uba ezi zicelo zezindlu umasipala wethu ziyangena ekhansileni, abhalelwe uminister okwa-national department, ibhalelwe kwe-province. Sibaxelele futhi uba sesiwu-identifyele umhlaba owakhela abantu izindlu. Sona zithwalisa ityala umthwalo ongengoweni. The UDM municipalities will initiate housing projects with the national as well as provincial governments. We will ensure that housing projects are of good quality and are able to stand the test of time. UDM will improve the standard of living and of informal settlements by providing essential services with a view of rather finding long-term housing solutions. In municipalities where the UDM govern, we will seek to involve all the relevant departments in finding a uniform land tenure system. Awujonge usizi labantu abasegoli nabaseKapa abamnyama. Ngikhumbula early 80s. La matyotyombe sicampaigna pha nalapha ko-90 sicampaignela ne-ANC. Matyotyombe aseme kwezaa ndawo ayikuzo. What I want to appeal to, asina federal system in this country. If the Western Cape government ayibalungiselela abantu bakuthi abakwezi ndawo abantsundu, i-ANC must not expect uba mayisebenzisa abantu as voting cattle for ubeka i-president babeke ntoni njalo njalo. Phaya le budget ikhutshwa ngu-National Treasury, i-government ine-responsibility yokuthi make sure uba aba bantu bayakhutshwa kule mikhukhu bade bakhelwe izindlu ezidecent. Hayi le ndaba besiyibona nalapha eTV-ni ufumanisa uba yo isurage inqumle izitrato. Uba west ke ngoku xa ungekho nandawo engekho stratweni, abanye babeke imikhukhu yabo esentini. Xa kufike imvula pha koKapa niyazibonela i-floods. So sifuna ke ngoku singu-UDM mntakakhwankwa thina at national level, we must bring this to the attention of the president. But this is not a federal state. He has powers to intervene on behalf of the people of Western Cape. Bahleli ebugqwayibeni. Finish. Make size ke ngoku apha kwi-waste management. Ubuxeleki obuni ingcolisayo ilizwe lonke. Nami ngiguilty apho nani sonke. South Africa is the dirtiest it has ever been in its history, with littering and garbage dumping at an all-time high. Our people and government could not care less. Not only is this a massive health hazard that attracts vermin, it affects stormwater system that causes flooding, and our environment and tourism also suffer. We need to clean our country if we have any hope of maintaining our natural heritage, preserving our environment, and restoring our tourism industry. UDM municipalities will keep their towns and cities clean by enforcing bylaws and ensuring that the waste management divisions properly do their work. The UDM will enter into negotiations with local bus companies and taxi associations to have trash cans in their vehicles, and to make a forced stop should a passenger throw garbage out of a window to make them pick it up. Indeed. Bantu, we have to build or inculcate a culture of ownership. A culture yobuzwe. Umzi wami lo zawuklina phambi koba ndigoduke ndiyophangela. Sistrato sethu esi ngeke ndikhuphe ndingcolise. Idolophi yam le andinawujula edolophini inkukulu. Mandiyifake emgqobeni oright. Sithi ke sizawungena sixoxe notato notaxi nabantu bebhasi. Uba uyajonga uthi apha kwi-intersection uba kuthe kwamiwa nakwezi humps ufumanisa uba mani kujulwa kwanto nento zimdaka neepampas konke uthi ayibo kusese-South Africa apha. So noko nto zakuthi xa singene ke kwi-agreement nonotaxi nabantu bebhasi sizawuthi bantu bakuthi itaxi yakho apha ngawuzama kube khona icontainer apha eteksini uba abantu bayatya bakwazi ugalela apha uzuthi xa ufika erenkini ke nguyofaka kulaa mgqomo omkhulu. Umntu onenkani ojula ngefestile yakho ajule imathambo akho eKentucky neplastiki mise lo taxi uthi makehlike awuyichola makafake ebhegini yakhe sithi make singena apha kucele ke ngokwelicala lecrime. The UDM recognizes that communities play a major role in addressing the root causes of crime and violence. They can act as the eyes and ears of our law enforcement agencies. In UDM municipalities, we shall agitate for local safety and security agencies to be properly capacitated and coordinated and be brought closer to the people. UDM will endeavor to cultivate healthy relationships between the police, community police forum, and communities to prevent vigilantism. Furthermore, we will actively encourage communities to participate in the eradication of crime through the establishment of properly resourced neighborhood watches. Civil disobedience abake ngokuba zithathela umthetho bengafuna ulawuleka. Civil disobedience, as fostered by the ruling party's unwillingness to listen to our people or to tend to their needs, has become the norm. The most effective way to acquire government's attention these days is to pillage, break. This is a crucial lesson, this is a cruel lesson to have taught our people. UDM municipalities and councillors will, as its primary step, not ignore its citizens, especially in times of crime, of crisis. Gender-based violence. Certain legislative changes have been made, but if crime is rife and on the increase, how will we stem the tide of gender-based violence, or GBV, and femicide? The adage that it takes a village to raise a child is true. UDM municipalities will therefore allocate more resources to teach communities about how to steer clear of GBV and femicide as part of the collective effort to teach our people right from wrong. We shall also pressurize the police to place greater emphasis on combating GBV and femicide. Dimkeke ngondiye politics. Coalitions. Nangu Mayor Phala chap yase Nelson Mandela wasishiya nelifa pha ubobani uphi imaba bakubona emhlabeni oh yeah okay uye lo i-coalitions Uxa urhulumente bekuvote engakwazi ukulawula yedwa ziyanceda because it bring in checks and balances bagadane. But ingxaki esibenayo kwi-coalitions eSouth Africa azika-regulatwa kakuhle, kufuneka kwenziwe i-regulations, not act, just i-regulations. Nokuthi kusetyenzwa njani nee-parties xa nikhona pha, angathi lo namanani amakhulu acinga uba kumncedile nguye ophetheyo. Iphethe le yakuthi bayi-2 qha pha kulaa council, but uphethe umasipala wonke. And well done, Mfana, because okuthiwa ngena pha umuntu omtsha, you have stabilized the whole thing, and I see ne-branding apha ngaphandle zemoto zakhe ngathi usirhalela uba ngumeya pha. Ndayokuncedisa ndizawufika pha ndokukhampeynela. Coalitions are here to stay, as the South African electorate is tired of one-party dominance. It did not work under the National Party and not under the ANC either. Sizawutshintsha izinto. However, coalition government is a relatively new phenomenon that will still have teething problems and is not uniformly practiced. UDM is of the view that guidelines on how coalition governments are managed, the practicalities must be outlined and gazetted. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the UDM's motto for this year's election is putting people first. I'm sure nivile nangokuba intetha yami igxinise ekuncedeni abantu. Ne-background yami ebesiyenza bendiyenzile uba i-UDM leadership yenza ntoni xa ingapolitiki, kuncedwa abantu. Ayo leadership ebimali le. Asinalo nengxaki le. Nozondo commission uyayazi elele pha kwakhe uba akaphuphi nophuphi bangaza summon ukhwankwa okanye summon uHolomisa ndiyovela pha ndiyokwenzani. This has always been a fundamental stance of the UDM, and it is our succinct way of saying you are our priority. Put people first. UDM and our candidates are special purpose vehicles who will strive to free our people from the chains of poverty, inequality, unemployment, corruption, crime, and gender-based violence. Lastly, you will find the UDM's 2021 Manifesto on our website at www.udm.org.za. Now, anit ke ndibuyele kuni ke kulaa mcimbi bendike ndawuphakamisa wentoba ugqitha kwezi elections zonke i-political parties nabantu amakhosi and everybody kuyafuneka ke sihlangane necaleni sigwadle ke sinokole sithethe ngoba size njani apha kule ndawo sikuyo ngoku. Nansi party silwa yodwa yawugqiba ukulwa yodwa yahlaza iSouth Africa. Yachitha ngoku sawuchitha i-32 billion rand silungisa ihlazo le-ruling party bisilwa yodwa. Now sawunyamezela obo bubhanqa kude kube nini. So mayisondele ke ezinye ii-parties ke siphunga ikofu namakhosi abecawe sithi ingaba iseyilaa nto na sasishelwe nguMadiba le, ingaba lela lifa lalishiywe ngo-OR Tambo, ingaba lela lifana lalishiywe ngamanye amaqhawe afana noTata uBiko. Ke sicinge kakuhle, less politics but nazi findings zikaZondo Commission zizawuphuma zizawu-implementwa ngubani. Ngeke si-expect ba i-ANC yawu self-correct itself sithi thina sawube sihlangene emva kwezi-election sidrawishwe i-way forward up until 2024 elections. Mawubuye uMzantsi Afrika wethu esiwuthandayo emaseleni, mawubuye. Mawubuye uMzantsi Afrika wethu esiwuthandayo emaseleni, mawubuye. Phansi ngamasela, phansi. Banovota.